Hey everybody, it's Katie Gallagher and Carmen Herder with the Click Group at Remax today. And we just wanted to take a few minutes today to talk about some of the common myths that are involved in the home buying and selling process. So there's a lot of them, but we're just going to run through five really quickly. And we're going to start with number one, which is I need 20% down to buy a home. Carmen, what are your thoughts on this?
I think a lot of people think you need 20% down. Sometimes lenders recommend if you have that much that you should. But it's definitely not necessary. There are all kinds of loan programs out there where you can put down as little as 3%. And for first time home buyers or some people that qualify, you can put down as little as 0%, for example, like a VA loan, or like I said, first time home buyers. So the best thing is to reach out to us or a lender that you have that you work with and ask them because there are a lot of options out there and a lot of people think that you need to put 20% down, and that's just not true.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of different products. There's FHA, VA, USDA, and conventional. And I think that 20% down is a myth because of conventional and the fact that it can take away what's called PMI,
Yeah.
which adds to your monthly payment. But even right now, especially with FHA and VA, you can have a lower APR and maybe that PMI is worth it to tack on to your monthly payment to have the lower interest rate,
Mm-hmm.
just depending on it. So I always just say to have a lender do a run through of a cost breakdown and how many years it makes sense for you to own a home to actually deal with the PMI and
Yeah.
have the lower percent interest rate or not. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, what's number two?
Um, I want to wait for the market to crash to buy.
We hear this a ton lately, and it can be super frustrating for us because obviously we help people buy and sell homes. And so we want to work and we want to help you guys do that. The problem is, some people think we're going to wait around for this market to crash, and you don't have a crystal ball. You don't know when that's going to happen.
Or
And
if it will happen.
or if it will happen. And a lot goes into that too. So I think the COVID years definitely shed some light on the fact that you cannot predict 100% what is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And what we saw was that huge drop in interest rates. And then what do you know? We've got multiple offers on every single house, driving up the price like crazy. Thank goodness we're in a stable market right now. So buyers and sellers actually can take a minute to breathe. But I just feel like in the long run, there's so many reasons why you shouldn't be waiting for that to happen. And also, your agent is going to kind of guide you through that. And it could end up costing you way more money in the long term if you're waiting. Because, like I just said, with those COVID years, we saw those prices skyrocket
Mm-hmm.
because of the lower interest rates. Well, if you had bought in a really strong market, which was happening right before COVID, when people were still on the fence waiting for it to crash, if you had just gone ahead and bought, then you'd already be in a way better position with your equity.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is I'll save money by not using a realtor.
Woohoo!
Especially since we're talking about buyer and seller, but buyer wise, a lot of people think I found this house on Zillow, I'll just go look at it. But you may end up costing yourself more in the long run. Things like inspection process. What are you looking for? What can you ask for legally for the seller to repair? Just other things that you need to be aware of when buying a home. Your realtor is there as your advocate and your trusted advisor. We're not there to try and talk you into something, but we are there to help protect you and to protect your financial interest as well.
Yeah, for sure. And on the selling side, there's all kinds of statistics that show that at the end of the day, for sale by owners, we refer to them as FSBOs, they do end up making less money than they would have if they had used an agent.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Number four is getting pre approved will hurt my credit. This is so not the case. So, what you do to get pre approved is your lender, yes, they're going to pull your credit, but it's also known as a soft pull. So, it's not going to ding you, it's not going to hurt you. And then you actually have time to do some shopping. So, the credit pull is good for 30 days, but if we go outside of that 30 days, and you still haven't found a home, it's not going to hurt you for another, I think it's a total of 90 days. Obviously, I would say talk with your lender and double check that information, but it's not going to hurt you for them to have to check it again. So go ahead, get pre-approved, because that way we know what you actually can afford, so that it's not a shock when we get to the contract, the point of making an offer and putting a contract on a home, and then your lender says, oh, I actually just now pulled your credit and you can't get that interest rate. So now your monthly payment's going to be higher. That could very well determine that you can't buy this house.
And also want to point out, once you do get pre-approved, you have that time period to shop around multiple lenders. So it's not going to continue dinging your credit, but you can shop around, find the best person to work with, the best interest rate, and it can be a pretty smooth process without hurting your credit.
That's a really good point. Okay, so the final myth we're talking about today, I've only ever rented, I can't afford to buy. Carmen?
I have heard that a lot, and I always ask people, how do you know that? Have you talked to a lender? Based on the amount of rent that some people pay, especially in the more desirable areas of Huntsville and Madison, they actually could afford a monthly mortgage. And you never know unless you just find out. So like we had talked about having that soft pull on your credit, go ahead and find out. Let them know what you're paying. Let them know what your comfort level with your threshold is. And a lot of times you are ready to buy now.
For sure. Yeah. I think it's super important to at least get the information, because sometimes renting is good. If you're moving to a new place, you're not really sure, you want to figure out what neighborhood you like, sure, go ahead and rent. But if you're settled, it drives me nuts. I have a very close personal friend who rented for 6 years in the same house, in the same neighborhood, and then they ended up buying a house in that neighborhood. And I'm like, you just spent 6 years of throwing away money where you could have been building equity.
Paying someone else's mortgage.
Yes. And you know what's really funny is they were actually waiting for the market to crash. And then they ended up buying at the height of the market. So, yeah, I think you'd be surprised about what you can afford. And if you can't, if your credit is an issue and maybe that's why you don't qualify, then especially the lenders we're going to recommend to our clients are going to set up a plan for you. They're going to tell you what you can do to fix your credit more quickly than you would on your own, because a lot of people don't know some of the little tips and tricks. So just go ahead and start the process, even if you think, oh, I don't qualify. Well, let's look into it and then we'll go from there. So
yeah.
Hopefully this helped some people and will shift your mindset, because these are definitely myths and we hear them all of the time.
Yeah. And buying a house is more doable than you think. So reach out to us if you have any more questions.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.